All right, back for part 2 of the Elden Ring Remembrance. And God, I can't believe we're already here in the Halig tree for this rematch against Loretta. I think that's Loretta. I thought the Halig tree was an interesting level. I had a little bit of it spoiled for me in the sense that I had seen references to it online. And I had seen references to the idea that it was a really hard place. So I remember thinking that going in. Yeah, there it is, Loretta. It's an interesting kind of hard place because the enemies were difficult, but the atmosphere was like mildly pleasant for Dark Souls. You know, it's outside, especially if you switch it to light to the daytime. It was mildly pleasant. I find that I much prefer the mildly pleasant atmospheres in Dark Souls to the like unpleasant ones, which to me, like the catacombs are like the ultimate in unpleasant, just like dark, scary, claustrophobic, like get me out of here type place. I think this was the last battle that my mimic... No, never mind, there's one more. But we're getting close to the end of the mimic's usefulness. The enemies here near the end were really tough. And they had certain... Even though the mimic was good, they had certain types of attacks that the mimic couldn't really defend against very well. And it would lead to him dying. Basically, how good the mimic was against a boss, it depended entirely on how long he could stay alive. And against some bosses that would be a lot, and against some bosses it wouldn't. This is the last battle that I used the mimic on. I used the mimic and I used the NPC summon that was outside the gate because I finally realized you could do that. So the Bernarl. Recusant Bernarl. Oh my god, that guy chased me all the way down. I wonder how long Recusant Bernarl stood out there fighting that guy before he came inside. This is another one of these, I wouldn't say low quality boss battles, but I would just say, you know, a reskin, right? We've already seen some version of the god skins quite a few times, and so really all they did here was put them both together. We may have even already seen that. I can't really remember, because here you get both of them together and then plus they each revive one time, so it's kind of a marathon battle here. I would think that doing this just by yourself would be quite hard, like Ornstein and Smo, where Ornstein, they each come back after it's over. But as it was easy enough. Look, that guy has eyes in his back. I never noticed that before. So yeah, they got 2, but we had 3, so we outnumbered them. And especially here where it's just 1, it wasn't too difficult at this point. And I do think that this was kind of the well, I'm sorry, I keep getting ahead of myself. There is one more boss who's not that hard. What's his name? The guy from the Badlands. Horalu. But other than him, we start to get into some bosses that really required the expertise of human beings, which was not my expertise, but the expertise of the human beings that I summoned. We're getting close to the point where we really needed those people. Farum, the Crumbling Farum was an awesome level. I can say that now in hindsight. Like, I remember when I was playing it, I was actually kind of wanting to hurry up and get done with it because it was kind of stressing me out because it felt kind of scary and it was kind of tough and it was huge. And especially that part at the end where the dragon starts shooting the lightning and you have to run past the lightning and the birds just to get to a part where you just get killed by a bunch of tough dudes. Like, it was You know, it was like a genuinely hard, you know, level in a way that I don't really think this game had before this point. And I'm glad it had it, even though when I was in the midst of it, I was sort of, like I said, it was stressing me out, and I was kind of excited for it to be over. But now that I look back, you know, I'm glad that it was exactly everything that it was. You know, just incredibly intimidating to look at, the tornadoes, the dragons, and really cool design. I love the way you could see this bridge, and you could see the boss gate way long before you could get to it. That's classic Dark Souls level design. This is not my first battle against this boss, so the knight here is already dead, and we're going to skip the cutscenes, but this was the first of like the tough bosses that I couldn't handle by myself. This guy had an attack of some kind. His second phase, the dog, had an attack of some kind that I think it would just kill the mimic. It would either kill me or it would kill the mimic, and so we couldn't survive him. But as you'll see here, I don't know which friend it is or what skill they have, and it may not even be revealed until phase 2. Look at how small that my single great axe shot took like practically nothing off that guy. Oh, you just saw a big chunk come off. See, I think that guy's got blood. He's got bleed. Damn, he's inflicting bleed damage. Oh, this guy doesn't have 2 health bars. He only has one, half of one. Okay. But yeah, you'll see here that phase 2, I mean, this is a short video. Phase 2 hardly lasts long at all. I don't know what they hit him with, but they hit him with some really devastating stuff. I've got my shield out, just rolling around being useless, just trying not to die. But they're going to hit him with some pretty devastating stuff here in a minute. But yeah, he had some kind of attack that like it lowered your maximum HP or it drained your HP. It did something that just really killed you. There we go. Okay, at least I got in a few hits to justify my presence out there. Look, he's dead so quickly. Witless tarnished. Why covet destined death? To kill what? It is an interesting question. Like, what are you doing? Why are we doing all this? There are NPCs that seem to live like a decent, safe life in this world. Why not just be one of them? Or just live in the round table hold forever. Sell goods to the next tarnished who wants to come through. I know why, because of the flames of ambition. There's this whole thing about what that is and like what's happening here. I learned about it on a video I watched on YouTube later. This was an interesting boss, really tough. I wonder if, other than just looking it up on the internet, if there was any way to know about this boss. I was thinking about maybe there are other parts in the level where you could have had a vantage point to see this series of rocks here that you can drop down on. I mean, you can kind of see that, but like, just as a player, I don't know that you would have ever seen this and been like, yeah, I can drop down there. I mean, you look down and you kind of see a rock, but there are a lot of parts in this game where it looks like a rock, and then when you drop down on it, you just slide right off it into the abyss. I've done that quite a few times. And there were some funny guys this playthrough that were putting up signs in a lot of places saying things like jump or drop or down here, and then you would drop and just die. So I really, that's why myself, when I got to this point, I didn't drop down even though I saw something about it. So I fought this boss quite a few times too. And this was the last, no, actually, maybe in this one I recorded 2 battles. I think an unsuccessful battle and then a successful battle, just to show the difference. So that's Rose, and I think I'm going to get somebody else. It was nice at this point in the game to see that there was a lot of co-op for these bosses, because I had been really frustrated earlier in the game. A lot of the bosses did not have. You would use the sign, you would use the furrowed finger, and they did not show up. Even by the summoning pools, they just did not show up. And I think that's always been true. I think players who reach the end of the game and they've beaten it themselves, you know, one of the things that I think they like to do is just sort of hang out and do co-op for a while. And so I think that means that all those late game bosses have a large pool of people that are trying to do co-op. But what about the early and mid game bosses? I think the game needs to do something like, it needs to just have a method to scale anybody down so that they can fight any boss. And I feel like some previous games maybe did that. Never mind, this is the successful battle. Look at the damage that somebody's doing to this guy. Somebody is hitting him with like a red, I guess it's Rose. She's shooting like a red projectile at him. You see that? And it cuts through him. It takes a big chunk and then his life just drains. Like, what is that? I don't know. I hit his tail a bunch of times just to justify my own existence, but look, his health is like melting off. And I'm just hanging back. But yeah, they ought to make it so that a player who's at the end of the game can be summoned anywhere. And maybe even explain the rules. Like, if they want to do it by weapon level, maybe they need to tell you, like, look, you need to, if you want to get summoned from Margit, you need to put on a +5 weapon. Because I think people would do that. I think people would get a +5 weapon and then go fight Margit. I want to go fight Margit right now, but I can't. I would do co-op for everybody. Look at that health coming off. That is just absolutely crazy. I think towards the end of that game, I just stayed in the back. Towards the end of that battle, I just stayed in the back because it became obvious to me that these guys are going to kill this thing. I don't even need to try to help. There I am applauding. It was masterful work. I don't know what that build was. I don't know what that guy was doing, but it was just crushing that boss. And that boss had a lot of HP because that was a 3-on-1 battle, so it had the buff. It had the buff of having 3 times the HP or something like that because of the co-op. All right. So with this one, I wanted to include a previous battle, but I wanted to shrink it down, so I just started with phase 2. And with her, what you can see, the reason I wanted to do this is just to capture the way that, like, we did okay against her, but just not that good. Like, the damage, we were lacking in the damage. Of course, this is the boss who can recover her own damage by connecting with any hit. But you can see we're just taking these, like, that's pretty pathetic the way I just whiffed. But we're just taking these like little pieces, and then she gains them right back. So it was just kind of like a never-ending thing. And especially with this boss having a 3-person HP buff, I think I am kind of convinced now. The internet has possibly convinced me that 3 people is rarely better than 2 people. Because all you really need is for there to be one player who can have free shots on her while the boss is looking at somebody else. That leaves one player that can get free shots. As long as you have that. Oh, someone just did something to her because I saw a chunk come off. And there's a parry or a bleed. As long as you have one player that's distracting her and the other player can get free shots, that's kind of all you need. And she doesn't get triple the HP and triple the buffs. She only gets double. So that might be the case. I really don't. I think if you can stagger the boss with heavy hits, then having 3 people can be good. Because you can just really do like a boss beatdown. And there were some parts on this boss where I felt like we were doing that. Like maybe this is a spot right here. But she wouldn't stay beat down for long. But you can see, like, overall progress on her HP is just not enough. And we're doing okay. We're not dying. We're staying alive. I still have 7 Estus left. I think it was actually what would really happen was that my friends would run out of Estus. And then it was just me, and then forget it. I mean, I was completely finished at that point. Let's talk about this lady, since they say this is the hardest boss in Elden Ring. Obviously, I think part of what was so hard about her was that she could basically Scarlet Rot you on the one hand, and that she recovered HP with attacks on the other hand. That's like a real, just forget her normal attacks, which she's kind of a standard swordstress type boss. She's really fast and she can hit you hard and all that stuff. But look, here I am rolling like that matters after I just got hit twice. But I think it was really the addition of the Scarlet Rot and of the HP regeneration that pushed her over the edge and made her like a next level difficulty boss. Very interesting design too. She's supposed to be, there's something about her that's supposed to be like a rot. She's the goddess of rot. But yet, there's something kind of beautiful. I mean, she's like very colorful, and those are butterflies on her. I need to look up on the internet and see like a real close-up. Because I'm sure if you saw like a close-up of the wings, there probably is something gross about them. There always is. Dark Souls, I feel like they do sometimes like to combine like beauty with disgusting things in one image. Okay, my friends are dead. Why? Because they ran out of Estus. Because this battle just went too long. Now I'm dead. And so now there's going to be the fast battle. I realized in this game, basically all the way back to Margit, that just because you and your team of co-op people are not beating the boss, or the boss is seeming like it's impossible even with 3, I learned, don't give up. Keep calling people. Because eventually, it really has to do with the specific people you're calling. And eventually you're going to call the person who is what I call the professional boss killer. The person who just has... They know exactly how to do this. They've got their build perfectly designed for this boss. Everything they do is kind of perfectly designed for the boss and for inflicting maximum damage, and they're very experienced. And eventually a person like that's going to come in and just kill the boss for you. Whereas most of the time, the people that you're summoning are like you. They suck just like you. But eventually you're going to get some good people. And these two people here, I noticed this on the replay, but I think they were both kind of doing the same thing. They were both trying to make her bleed, and they were both causing bleed buildup. And I think probably it was a combination of the two of them. And both of them making her, building up her bleed meter that caused a lot of good bleeding. And so it really seemed like they were beating her down fast. I think they both have 2 swords, and every time look at that. That was a big chunk that just came off. A big, big chunk. So for phase 1, I was kind of, really trying to participate and get in there. I think, I don't know if I had a sense at this point yet that this was going to be the team that could beat her, but, I wanted to do my part. And I felt like I had a lot of Estus, and I felt brave. And then when phase 2 began, I think I just kind of hung back and just kind of let them get the job done. I feel like I contributed a little bit with stuff like that. Like I staggered her, and that allowed these other guys to come in and hit with their bleed. Basically get free shots on her. Although, that happened to me. A lot of these bosses, this lady, Margit, the dragon that I just fought, even though I co-op them, I still had to fight them, I would say, 5 or 6 times. And even though at the time it was kind of frustrating, it's one of these things where once it was over, I'm so happy that that's the way it happened, rather than just beat them on the first try. Because there is something kind of satisfying, I think. Not necessarily about, you know, overcoming in the end. I mean, I have experienced that satisfaction. But I think just there's a satisfaction in just sort of really knowing the boss. And knowing the boss in a way that only happens through repeated play. So, like, you know, sometimes you'll be reading on the internet and people will be talking about, you know, oh, the boss has this kind of attack or it does this thing. And honestly, for a lot of these first time, like if you were to ask me about Commander Neil's attacks, I had no idea because we just beat him down, he was dead, that's it. I don't remember what Commander Neil really did or what his moves were. But I remember this lady's moves. I remember a few of the other moves. I remember Margit, definitely. Just because of how many times I had to go through it. Even though it wasn't 100 times, like a lot of people will do to beat it solo. But it was, you know, I think I fought this lady 10 times. Until finally I got these boys. Look at that, the dragon attack, that took a big chunk. I think he might have been shooting something at her. I think he might have had I don't know what. So at this point, I'm just hanging back. I do not want to get caught by some stupid thing and just die. I don't want to ruin all the hard work that my friends have put into it. So I'm just going to hang back. And these guys are going to get the job done. But I do feel bad because one of them dies in the last minute. I think he actually like trades lethal blows with the boss. I think he kills her, but it kills it. It kills him. I hope that he at least was alive long enough to see that he killed the boss and that he knew that he did it for me. I mean, there's the boss. Extraordinary. And there's the player. So yeah, I think he saw. And then the lady, and then one of my partners comes over to me and does this funky stance. I've come to since learn, I've learned about the, you know, let me solo her and some of the stuff that goes on around here. It seems like this boss in particular has a lot of co-op interest and people that are trying to become really expert at her for the purposes of showing off during co-op. And I think both of these partners were kind of like let me solo her apprentices. It wasn't let me solo her, but they were kind of both fighting in the same style. One of them's name even was Solo. And then the other one had a similar, like, you know, naked outfit. So, you know, I'm playing this game after Sekiro, and of course I had such a tortured relationship with Sekiro. I loved Sekiro. To this day, I think it's a incredible, amazing game, but of course I didn't beat it. I got as far as Genichiro, and I have Lady Butterfly as my lone example of a boss that I defeated on my own and put in a lot of work to beat. I put in a lot of work on Genichiro too, but I just couldn't beat him. I've come to peace with it, you know. I remembered that when I was a kid, I never beat any games either because they were too hard. You know, you play as far as you can, and that's kind of how it works. And it was the same with Sekiro, and it's fine. And then with this game, of course, I made every boss battle as easy as I possibly could for me. I didn't handicap myself or try to do them alone. If I could use my ashes, I did. If I could summon, I did. Let me pause that to say, look at Sir Gideon Ofnir. I'm glad there was a final battle with this guy. It was obvious that he was not exactly on your side throughout this game. And I think they did a good job. I think he was the exact right difficulty too. He actually wasn't that hard. You could see why he would think that he could maybe be Elden Lord. He did have some abilities, he did have some power, but ultimately he was not at your level. But as I was saying, yeah, I didn't make these battles hard, and I didn't sort of overcome. But I don't. As many videos as there are on the internet of people swearing that that's what these games are all about. I don't really think. I've done my share of that. I did Dark Souls 1 by myself. I beat every boss by myself, and at the end of the day, beating the bosses by myself was not really what made me like the game. It was not. The perseverance and the overcoming is really not what made me like the game. What makes me like this game is just, I mean, the high quality of them. FromSoft obviously just has really professional people. They know what they're doing. Everything is great quality, and it's just great role playing. It's just great fun to pretend to be this guy running through these incredible levels. The level design, the leveling up of your character, the exploration. These are the things that are fun to me about this game. So I don't mind doing what I have to do to get through the bosses in a way that's fun. But like I said before, there is sort of a perfect balance. I think when you just beat somebody the first time, you kind of feel good about it at the moment, but I think on reflection, you kind of wish maybe it had lasted a little longer. Like here, I'm going to beat Hoaraloo the first time, because I got the Mimic and I got, Nefalilu, and that combination is strong enough to beat him. So I can't tell you that I know much about this guy as a boss.
It's been a long while, Morgoth.
Nothing like it was with the other guy. Now, he was just holding Morgoth in his arms, and Morgoth was like a tiny skeleton, and of course Morgoth is huge.
Didst thou fight,
so this guy must be absolutely enormous.
tarnished warrior, spurned by the grace of gold. Be assured.
I've been thinking about the ways that this game is different from the other FromSoft games, because of course this game has the input from George R.R. Martin, which was a fact that I kept forgetting throughout the game because it seemed very consistent with FromSoft, Dark Souls, Sekiro, Bloodborne, and really not anything like Game of Thrones.
Alas,
Game of Thrones didn't have this kind of fantasy, so it just didn't feel the same.
to be granted.
But the one thing I will
audience
say about
once
this
more.
place is that it seems like there was a more coherent logic to the world you were in and like where you needed to go.
Upon my
So
name
the
as
Erd Tree
Godfrey,
was something that you could see from the very beginning of the game. It was this gigantic thing in the distance. And it just makes total sense that the final battle in this game would be inside the Erd Tree. Of course it would be. That just makes complete sense. And other, I feel like other Dark Souls games weren't like that. They didn't have, it's not that the locations of their final battles were nonsensical, but it's just that they weren't really necessarily places that had a lot to do with the story or the lore, or that it seemed like, yes, of course, that's where you're going. Like in Bloodborne, I don't think the player in Bloodborne ever had any sense of where they were going, ever. Or they had any purpose, ever. It was just like, here's the next level. I think Dark Souls was kind of similar. Like you were on a mission to collect things, but you weren't really on a mission to go anywhere. And Dark Souls 3 might have been similar. But here, you really were. From the very beginning, you knew, like, I need to get to that tree.
thou didst me good
And
service, Siraj.
it took a long time. It took a long time to get to the tree. but and there were disruptions along the way. And then when you finally get to it the first time, you're told, you have to go to this other place first, and then you can come back. But there was some coherence to it. I liked that. I think, as much as I like the way that the Dark Souls games, the stories kind of aren't complete or involve things you don't quite understand, I do think there's still some, you get an amount of satisfaction when you do understand it. And it does make sense. I thought it was interesting that you have to get this far in the game to even hear the name Horalu. Horalu, of course, is mentioned in the opening video, but not as a boss. He's mentioned as one of the Tarnished. And, of course, he is a Tarnished, I guess, under the... Sorry, he just gave... he just gave a jumping pile driver to his own daughter. The opening video for this game was both awesome and different. It was awesome in the sense that it was like a traditional Dark Souls game, and as I was watching it, I realized that it was my first sign that this is actually Dark Souls 4. But it was a little bit different, because rather than running down the bosses, it ran down the Tarnished, which were sort of like the significant NPCs. And Horalu was the very first one it mentioned. And of course, Horalu is chieftain of the Badlands. The Badlands is also mentioned on the item description for the Great Axe. Not Horalu, but the Badlands. But yeah, he's mentioned, and I remember, about halfway through playing, I went back and I watched that old video again, and I saw him again, and I was like, who is this guy? Is this someone that is this an NPC quest that I failed to notice? Because I knew pretty much everyone else at that point. Dung Eater, Gold Mask, Fia. I had seen them all, but I hadn't seen Horalu. Okay, so this is it. This is the final battle. And you can see I have quite a bizarre outfit on. This is not my normal outfit, because I fought this guy more times than I fought Melina. And I tried a lot of different things. You can see I have that prayerful strike on my weapon. I think I'm going to show it here. I think I'm going to summon my Mimic. I had read online that if you give yourself prayerful strike, then your Mimic will use it. And your Mimic can use it to recover his own HP. And so that will allow your Mimic to last the entire battle. And as I said before, what really matters the most with the Mimic is how long they survive. So I tried that, and it actually seemed like it was working really well for phase 1 against this guy. Radagon, it worked really well, but then phase 2 against the Elden Beast, it completely stopped working. And I think I know why. I think that the Elden Beast was just too far away and shot too many projectiles. And the Mimic, number one, he was not able to avoid the projectile damage, and he wasn't able to close the distance so that he could get a hit in to heal himself, because Prayerful Strike heals by hitting. He was always too far away. But you can see here, the strategy worked really well against Radagon, because my Mimic has full health to start against the Elden Beast here. I really wanted to beat the game with the Mimic. I wanted to give me and the Mimic a chance, because I felt like we had been buddies for so long. What am I doing here? Oh yeah, I'm trying to put on my shield. I want to have a shield, but him not to have a shield. So I waited until... Do you see that? You see how he's getting hit by that? He can't protect against that. He doesn't know what to do about that, and it really, really hurt him. And now he's not going to be able to recover. Maybe if I had used the talisman that makes the boss focus on you, and if that had worked. Look, see, I think he just hit him. I think he's about to hit my friend again with all those golden strikes. No, maybe not. Anyway, I talked about battles that the Mimic just can't really handle, and Elden Beast is one of them. Which is too bad because, you know, there will probably come a day in the future where the co-op scene is not as good as it is now, and it would be nice to know that the ashes are all a player ever needs, so that if the co-op scene falls apart, you can just always rely on your ashes to be just as good. Using other players is kind of more fun, but if you were able to use ashes to at least not get stuck, that would be nice to know. And I'm sure that's probably still true, but my ashes just didn't do that well against this guy. You can see why. Like, you see how far away he is. He needs to get up there and do a prayerful strike hit to recover HP, but he's so far away. And then I think he's going to get hit by that stuff. I don't think he knows how to dodge that stuff. Really, I don't think the Mimic can dodge roll. I think that's kind of what it comes down to. The Mimic can tank. He might be able to use a shield, but he can't dodge roll. And this was a boss where you really needed to be able to dodge roll for a lot of the things that he shot at. Now, before this video runs out, I only have about 10 more minutes, so I want to make sure I make any other points that I want to make. I didn't like this Elden Beast as a boss. I think I was saying earlier, you know, I'm happy with any Dark Souls content, but I had kind of been predicting, you know, who did I think the boss would be? You know, would it be Marika? Would it be Hoaraloo? Would it be Sir Gideon Ofnir? And part of me did think that it might be, I called it a tree beast, but like basically a beast incarnation of the Elden ring or the Elden tree. And that's basically exactly what it is. That's what I was exactly right, that's what it could have been. This Elden beast. I guess I don't mind the idea of that. I would prefer it to be a character, you know, someone who has a name and a role in the story. I much prefer, you know, say Gwyn to the whatever that thing was that Dark Souls 3 had. Alright, so here's where I'm going to summon some people. I think I read on the internet that you should just summon one person. I did read that, and I think this was the battle where I tried that. I just went with one person. Because I knew that, well, I just wanted to try that for a balance. That would double his HP, but not triple it. And so, if I had a person that could distract him and do some good damage, that might be all I needed. But as I was saying, I prefer the final boss to be some, you know, a character. Some, you know, I would have preferred it to have been Marika or even this Greater Will. I guess in some sense the Elden Beast is kind of like the Greater Will, but so there's that. And then the design, I thought the Elden Beast looks kind of silly. I mean, what is he? Some kind of like a whale octopus thing? Some kind of dragon, but he's all sort of soft and I mean, I guess that's okay. If you're a magical tree and you're going to be protected by a beast, maybe that, and you're invented by a god. I mean, maybe that beast doesn't have to look like a tiger or something. Maybe it doesn't have to have fangs and snarling claw. You know, maybe it doesn't have to be so tough looking. Maybe it can just kind of be a big blob, but I don't know. I haven't seen any criticism of the Elden Beast online. I imagine if I Googled, I'd probably find it on Reddit. I think there are just a lot of people that are really feeling good about Elden Ring right now, and probably nobody wants to say anything negative about it. So probably I could find it on Reddit where someone says the Elden Beast is stupid, and probably a bunch of other people would jump in and be like, "No, you just don't understand." But I also realize it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, with these Souls games, it doesn't. It never really matters.
Hey.
Dino. No, actually, I don't think Dino and I win. But I think I guess I'm showing 3 battles that I had here. One with Dino, and oh, here's what I remember happening. Dino actually, I think, was really good. I think he was doing a lot of good damage. He might have been a professional boss killer, but then I died to something stupid. It might have even been Radagon here who killed him. I watched a video after I beat this game where I got the full story about like Radagon in America and how Radagon is America and yada yada yada. It seemed like kind of like an exciting twist that really wasn't that exciting to me. I like it in games when you have like a god, but then you have like a person who wants power so badly that they become like more powerful than the god. I feel like some Final Fantasies have done that with like Kefka and maybe even Sephiroth and a few others. I always think that's the coolest type of final boss, is someone who's really not a god. They were a human, but somehow they've given themselves a lot of power. See, look at how... Hold on. I guess we have to get into the next phase to see. I feel like Dino was hitting him pretty strong. So anyway, I'm not a huge fan of the Elden Beast, but whatever. I'm just happy to have a game. Happy to have a boss. And if Elden Beast had been like one of the bosses but not the last boss, I think that could have made everything a lot... That could have solved all my problems. Because I'm happy to have... See, look. Yeah, that's it. See, Dino was hitting for good damage, but then I got killed by those stupid lightning bolts. Anyway, I'm happy to have all manner of bosses, good and dumb. But I just like it when the last boss is sort of perfect. I feel like Bloodborne is a game that kind of almost got it right. I thought that German, whatever his name was, he was absolutely perfect as a last boss. The Moon Presence, on the other hand, was like Elden Beast, just something goofy, not perfect as the last boss. Gwyn, I thought, was pretty good. I don't know what the Dark Souls 3 last boss should have been. Soul of Cinder. I used to say that I was going to choose to believe that the Soul of Cinder was actually the chosen undead from Dark Souls 1. That, I think, would have been a cool idea. They should have called him that. The final boss of Dark Souls 3 should have been named Chosen Undead. That would have been really cool. They blew it with Soul of Cinder. So what else do I have to say? I think this is my final battle. I think I'm going to win it this time. And then as soon as it's over, I think the recording will end. So what else can I say about Elden Ring? Yeah, like I said before, this was a game 6 years in the making. I think they absolutely came through for the fans. To have created such a huge game, and to have given people so much content, and ultimately to have made Dark Souls 4, because when Dark Souls 3 was over, they were kind of talking like they were done with Dark Souls. You know, they wanted to do different things. And of course, Sekiro was very different. And you got this feeling that like we weren't going to get any more Dark Souls content. And then you find out that there's this game coming out, Elden Ring, and it's open world, and it's all this different stuff. And then, you know, you would occasionally read an article that said like Elden Ring is very similar to Dark Souls, or that it includes a lot of Dark Souls elements. And you thought, well, okay, I guess that sounds promising. But in fact, it was so much more than that. It was Dark Souls. It was Dark Souls 4. That's what this is. I mean, they added an open world to it, but other than that, everything was the same. And it was an evolution in a lot of ways, but it was great. And I hope that it made a ton of money, and I hope that Miyazaki gets started on Elden Ring 2 or whatever else he's going to do next. I'd be happy for Bloodborne 2. I might even take a Sekiro 2. I hope they make it easier. But I just hope Miyazaki realizes that he can just make these, you know? And he doesn't have to figure out ways really to do them differently. I don't really think anything in Elden Ring really was different. You know, the levels, I don't know that the levels were necessarily better than what we'd seen in previous games. I don't know that the bosses were necessarily better. It was just, you know, more of the same but different and fun for people to play because they hadn't played it before. So I hope we see a lot more of these. I hope it doesn't take 6 years either. It seems like there was this incredible period from like 2011 to 2000 wherever, maybe 2016, where these Souls games were just coming out like fast and furious. Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3. And then it was just this incredible dry spell. But Elden Ring is a huge, huge game. And like I said, I think it's worth the wait. I don't know if I'll play it a second time. I do think I'll probably do more on my first file. I think I'll finish all the catacombs and the levels that I haven't finished. I'll probably do it in conjunction with the DLC when it comes out, assuming there's DLC. Probably in the week or two before the DLC comes out, I'll pick up the game. I want to refresh myself. You see, that thing that he's shooting right there, my human partner is just dodge rolling it. No problem. That's what the Mimic could never do. I think this battle actually ended in kind of a dramatic way, because I think my friend got him down to just a sliver of health left. But then it took a long time to get that final blow. I think that he did this thing where he jumps up in the air and he starts shooting his lightning bolts and he starts doing all this stuff. And there was a real concern for a minute that I might get caught by lightning bolts and die. Because you saw two battles ago that I did, or just one battle ago that I did die from the lightning bolt rain. And so I was against this guy. I was constantly worried that I could die at any minute because the lightning bolt rain caused me to die. I think that was a successful dodge roll right there. You know, I didn't get too good at it, but one thing that I think this experience with Elden Ring did was I think I'm finally sort of weaned off the shield. You know, it was... I had struggled for a long time to adopt two-handing because it meant giving up the shield. Here comes something after me. I struggled for a long time to adopt two-handing and to give up the shield, but in this game, the prospect of two weapons was just so good that it forced me to learn. Okay, check him out. So here, sliver of health. See, sliver of health, and he's like flying up in the air, and he's, you know, are we gonna get that last shot? Did he get it? Not yet. No, and then he flies up again. I wish I had could pull out my longbow and just shoot a little arrow at him or something right now. Thankfully, he kept attacking my friend more than me, and my friend was really good at avoiding all of those attacks. He didn't shoot, even this stuff. I think he's going to shoot most of it. Oh, he did try to get me. Look at that. And I avoided it. Good for me. I think here my friend, I think, is going to get the final shot now. Boom, there he goes. So now that I'm done with Elden Ring, I think I'm gonna watch 100 videos from Lobos Jr. I'm gonna God Slain, it said. I'm gonna keep talking to my brother until he finishes, and then I'm gonna move on to Horizon Forbidden West, which has been collecting dust for the last 2 months. For about a month, I played both games together, and then I became converted over to Elden Ring. And I got the Ronnie ending. I'm not sure if I recorded it. But I did the whole Ronnie subquest, and so that was the one I chose to do. And then I went and watched them all on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure, having seen them all, that the Ronnie ending was the best one anyway. So, or the Frenzied Flame ending, which I had done so much work to not get. You know, that one, the Ronnie and the Frenzied Flame endings are the best ones. The other endings were all kind of dumb. Awesome. Elden Ring, fantastic game. Can't wait to see what From does next.